Where are you going? What will you do? Hey, it's Megan, brings the world to you.
So in today's video, I sometimes find myself at a cemetery, and today is one of those days. I'm in Lake County, Florida, near Paisley, which is just over an hour or so from Disney World. And there's actually a connection to Disney World and this cemetery, so let's check it out. So the cemetery is kind of like in the middle of nowhere along a traffic, like it's a well-used road, but really just not much around. So the folks we're going to visit at the cemetery, they were buried here quite some time ago, but just by looking at some of these headstones towards the front, it still looks to be somewhat actively used. There's a little marker there that looks like there's not been a tomb, like headstone put in. This one right here, the most recent one was 2019, and some from the 90s. So granted, the 90s was, 20 plus years ago, but 2019, still relatively new. And kind of back in that area, it looks like there might be a fresh grave. So I mentioned that this cemetery has a connection to Walt Disney World. And the reason there's a connection here is because Walt Disney's maternal grandparents are buried here. A lot of people know, if you know anything about Disney, the Disney parks, etc., most people know that Walt was born in Chicago in 1901, and his family then moved to Missouri. And the small town that he lived in Missouri, was the basis of Main Street in the parks. So a lot of people know about that. His family, the reason why they picked Missouri, that's where his paternal family lived. His maternal side of the family, originally from Kansas, came here in the 1800s to basically settle. They were some of the original homesteaders in the state, especially this region, in the 1800s. His grandparents bought up 80 acres of land, and I know his grandfather was a school teacher. His grandmother probably worked at home, given the time. His grandmother would have been of working age. His mother was born here in this area, as well as Disney's oldest brother. And Disney's parents were actually married in the area in a small town of Kismet, which has basically become a ghost town. And the church and that town, nobody could quite pinpoint where exactly it is now. But they know it was in the Paisley area. And just to kind of give you a point of reference, if you know where, again, I said we're about an hour north of Tampa or Orlando, but we're really close to Altoona. Like this cemetery, the address pops up as Altoona, even though Paisley, the small town of Paisley, is right up the road. So I kind of know what to look for in regards to their marker. So I think it might be down towards the end, the back of the cemetery. So I'm gonna drive down there. So I actually stopped. There's a little gazebo here, and I noticed there was an information sheet posted on the gazebo. So I thought I would just stop really quick and take a look at that. Just because you never know, Disney might be mentioned in this posting. But I also wanted to mention that Disney would have been very familiar with this area, which is probably one of the reasons why he picked Florida as the location of Walt Disney World. He would have been coming here in the summers and whatnot to visit his grandparents. And yeah, he was born, like I said, in 1901. I know his grandfather passed away in 1908, so definitely would have been coming down here as a small child, visiting them. I'm not sure how old he was when his grandmother passed away, but I know there are pictures of him visiting family as an adult in the area. So this little information sheet does mention his grandparents, and it looks like the gazebo was built in 1928 with funds raised by then Secretary Treasurer Jesse Call Perkins. And it makes me wonder if maybe he's related to Disney in some way, because his grandparents were Charles and Henrietta Call. It could be a sibling of his mother, maybe. But also, it talks about the earliest. It was established in 1960, the cemetery, and it looks like the Cemetery Association was formed in 1891. And it talks about this. Where did I? Very meeting place and shaded area. I thought I talked about the well. Many of our trustees and members are buried, or descendants of early settlers and buried in the cemetery. The earliest marked grave in the cemetery is 1861, located in the Brantley family plot directly behind the well. And the well is actually right there, so maybe we should go visit them as well. So it doesn't look like there's a lot of maintenance as far as lawn care goes on here. It's hard to tell. I would imagine if there's no maintenance whatsoever, the grass would be much taller than it is now. But it doesn't seem to be regular. And there's the original well. And then a built well, maybe? A hand pump well. I'm guessing this might be Brantley, the surname Brantley, because it's literally next to the hand pumped well. And I don't see any other markers right around. So that I'm assuming that's who this is. So this burial would have been 1861, I believe it said. It's just off to the side. There is Francis R. Brantley Martin. He was buried in 1990. So definitely guessing that's who that was off to the side. Caroline, 1892. So there's a original. So yeah, there's another Brantley over there. Are these Brantleys as well? These might be the 2000, yeah, more Brantleys over here. 2008, 1994. These look to be maybe more original. They're kind of being grown up. So, now it's time to go find Henrietta, and I believe his name was Charles. So the sign said it was on the north side of the cemetery, northwest. So it's either right behind me. I'm not sure. This is north. Maybe on that side. Could be on that side. If my direction is still good at this point. And I've noted this is still an active cemetery, because when I pulled in, somebody was getting ready to pull out, and I just kind of waited a little bit because I knew they were moseying out before I vlogged the sign. And I was logging the gazebo. Another car pulled in, so I'll do my best. If it gets, I don't think where they are will be interfering where I'll go. So I just try to be respectful when I know it's an active cemetery. I also think I got an eye of where his grandparents are, because their headstone is very distinctive, and I think I just saw it. So I did spot their grave, because as I was pulling up closer, something has been put here that is very distinctly Disney. What you picture Walt Disney World, the company as a whole, Disney. So I knew I was in the right place. So this is Charles and Henrietta Call. This is where they've been laid to rest. You can see a Minnie Mouse. I wish I had a little token. Some folks have left coins. It says Charles and Henrietta were the grandparents of Walt Disney. the Call and Disney family moved to Florida in 1884 from Kansas. Family settled on land about a mile north of Paisley. Their daughter married Ellis Disney in 1888 and later moved to Chicago where Walt was born, basically what I said. As a child, Walt was a frequent visitor with his aunt Jessie. Jessie Call. That was his. Jessie Call would have been his aunt, who I mentioned in the gazebo. And what I knew this was here, what looked like a tree. I knew this is what to look for, but as I was pulling around, I saw this bench. And the second I saw the bench, I knew immediately this is where I needed to be. Looks like right here next to his grandparents. This looks to be a plot. That side seems to be empty. Right here next to his grandparents are Margaret Philip Frere, along with Phyllis Ann Frere. I'm not sure, maybe these were siblings, maybe? Cousins of Disney? I'm not 100% sure. Back there would have been the Perkins, Jessie C. So that grave is who erected the gazebo and who Disney often visited even after his grandparents passed away. It looks like his grandfather, it looks like I was a little bit off with the date when he passed away. He passed away in 1890. His grandmother was the one who passed away in 1810. So he did know his grandmother. He would have come back to visit his aunt, which would have been his mother's sister. So they are in the back end of the cemetery. It looks like there might be a house back there, but it's still very wooded in the area. You can hear that main road from back here. But it does seem like a peaceful place. Alright folks, well that's going to end this quick vlog. I just wanted to head out here and share it with y'all, obviously. But until next time, take care and I'll see you later. Bye.